land won't smooth. Your sons and daughters have to leave. Your rivers flow.
My name is Aisling. I am one of the spokespeople for the Summerhill occupation, and I do some volunteer work with Dublin Central Housing Action. We're here today, it's kind of like one of the events that has run through the occupation. So we ran a Leo's Early Risers event last week, and this week we decided to actually target the Housing Minister himself, Eoghan Murphy. Why we wanted to out the landlords as being the owners is it because it connects them to a bigger development going on in the area. They're also the owners of Albert House, which is the derelict Georgian mansion just down the road by the Five Lamps, if anybody knows it. They bought that in 2016 and have recently got approval to go in for redevelopment, so they're actually making moves to buy up a lot of properties in the area. So yeah, we marched from the occupation down. It was actually very successful. We didn't think that we'd get in, but the gates were open, and yeah, here we are. Essentially we had like demands printed off, and we are handing them in person.
Demands are basically that 33 to 39 Summerhill Parade are turned over to the community and being taken back into public ownership. We're demanding that people are looking like renters looking for proper security, and we're looking for fair rent, and demands linked, obviously rent linked to incomes as well, which is quite important.
I'm not too sure if Eoghan Murphy himself is actually here, but we are calling for a member from his department to come down and take the demands from us, I think the demand is that we give him till Friday noon, so that's our demand. We want a response by Friday noon, or something else is going to happen. So we're waiting for the court enforcement order to come, and we wanted to come. It will be a very public way that he will out himself as owner of the property, and it was our strategy from the get-go that we were wanting to force the hand that he would name himself as the owner. So now that that's happened, it's going to trickle on. There's been a lot of research done into the landlord. It connects them to bigger developments in the local area, so hopefully all the media now bite at those reports.
I heard someone shouting out a campaign for public housing.
Yeah, the campaign for public housing is one of the groups that are involved, so I suppose the structure of the occupation would be that no political representatives can join, but it is appreciated that there are campaigns out there and there are grassroots groups out there that have members that are linked to political groups, but we do say that if you're joining, that the politics is parked at the door, and that we work as with each other under the same structures, the same values, and it's working for us so far. So yeah.
So the Campaign for Public Housing is one of the groups that are supporting the Summerhill occupation. One of the aims of the occupation is that every building on Summerhill Parade and every vacant building will be bought up by the government and turned into public housing for people. So we know in the Campaign for Public Housing that even if you built in all of the public land that we own, you still wouldn't have enough housing to house everybody on the waiting list and everybody else who's in need of affordable public housing as well. So purchasing houses is a huge part of the strategy that we need to get enough public housing for all, and the best place to start is by compulsory purchase of buildings that have immorally been left vacant during a housing crisis. I mean, I think just generally spending that kind of money on private accommodation in the middle of a housing crisis where it's public housing that's needed is a scandal. I also read that one of the REITs, the Real Estate Investment Trusts, are actually after getting 19 million off the government. That's just one company that got 19 million to house people on the housing list. So what we're seeing is that the government won't build public housing because it says it creates ghettos, but it has no problem with 100 apartments being bought by a real estate investment trust in order to house people who are on the waiting list. So loads of people in public housing is fine if it's through a private developer, but if it's through the actual state providing it, then apparently it's not acceptable.
Not at all. Hopes are hubs were basically brought in as a temporary solution. And Coveney brought in this plan by 2016. Homeless was he actually said homelessness was going to end in Ireland. Again, what's happened? He's built hubs. He's facilitated private landlords again. Hubs are look like a permanent solution. So much money has been made by private companies building these hubs and making money out of hubs that they say it's a temporary solution, but it looks, all the ones I've seen look like permanent solutions. I know one up on Clonard Road in Kimmage, they spent an absolute fortune on it, and they're like, these aren't temporary homes for people. These are like prison cells. They're basically being incarcerated in these places, and it's dividing them from the community. There's massive gates outside, and it's just like it's like going back to the dark days of the Magdalen laundries and actually trying to treat people like total, absolutely like garbage. And that's exactly what they're doing. And it's absolutely horrendous. So we need to get public housing built, not hubs. Hubs aren't homes.
And this is the thing about the housing crisis people don't understand. It's not just the human misery being suffered by thousands of families, but there's a small layer of landlords and vulture funds and property speculators who are making a fortune from the misery being suffered by others. And that's what needs to be addressed and eliminated. And sadly, this government have facilitated that greed instead of actually standing up for the needs of people who need a secure, affordable roof over their head. Two major parties have a disproportionate number of landlords. I think about 30% of Fianna Fáil and 30% of Fine Gael are landlords. So there's a clear conflict of interest there, and it's obvious with the policies they pursue through NAMA, with the banks, the way they've treated people in mortgage distress, and of course the people on the housing list and who are homeless, that they're sticking up for the greedy, not for the people who need.
Everybody for the support again today. It was great. We got like a couple of hundred people up at Summerhill. We marched all the way through the city, through the streets again, and went to the steps of the Customs House. Had a bit of a rally, and then people decided then we're going to go in and occupy the Customs House. And now we're at the Customs House now. We're after occupying it probably a number of hours ago, and we're waiting for the official response from the Minister.
It's really hard to, if you can hear this, it's really hard to do an interview with that in the background. It's kind of cool.
Nowhere has the fighting Irish spirit